Hello and welcome to Burlington Cable Access's 2018 Burlington Town Election coverage. We are joined today by the one and only school committee candidate, Martha Simon. Thank you for joining us, Martha.
Sure.
And you are looking for your second term.
Yes.
So 3 years ago, I think we had you on. You hadn't run before. Now that you've had 3 years on, what are some of the things that you've kind of learned along the way?
Well, as a parent of two children who went through the schools, I knew a lot about the schools, and as a former teacher, I knew a lot about schools. But what I learned a lot about Burlington and what's been happening in Burlington in terms of educating our students. I was really delighted to learn more about the response to intervention, the RTI programming, which is sometimes called tiered instruction. I feel like the schools are doing a really good job at instruction and reinforcement instruction and finding kids before they fall through the cracks. I saw staff who were really engaged with wanting to help every child, and that was a really great thing that I was learning about the schools. I learned a lot about some of the social emotional learning that's been going on in the schools and some of the other initiatives that have been happening. So I've learned a lot about that. I've also learned a lot about budgets and some of the logistics and financial aspects of being on a school committee. And I think that there are issues that need to be addressed, but we'll get to those maybe later. So, and I'm just really pleased to be seeing a good school system that's moving forward. I think and I'm hoping that I'm helping doing that.
So once you sort of got a bigger or more complete picture of the school system, you're optimistic about, I think most people would agree it's a good system we have here in Burlington. So, so what are some of the things in the last 3 years that you've been able, or the committee's been able to accomplish that kind of stick out as proud moments?
Yeah. Well, I think I'm the most proud about introducing the idea of a new core value. We had core values that were really good about all students having high expectations for all students and providing excellence in our education. And what we added was a new core value to really focus on the idea that we're creating a learning environment where all students feel that they belong and where all students and staff work to improve their cultural proficiency. Because we have kids who are all different kinds, whether it's their special learning needs or whether it's their cultural background. We have students who vary a lot, and to make sure that all the staff and the students are helping to make our schools a place where everyone feels that they belong and that they're respected. So I'm very, very proud of that. I've also worked with the administration on improving our transparency and clarity around the budget. As someone who didn't know a lot about the budget when I first came in, I've made a point to educate myself a lot. I'm not an accountant and I will never know all of those ins and outs. But along with having a new finance manager, we do have a new format that's going to come out, and we're still learning it ourselves, that I believe will be more transparent, that will have more information in terms of narratives, that I'm really hoping will help everyone understand the budget and know what the reasons behind the budget. Because a budget is really a moral document. It's where do we value putting our resources, and that's to me what's really important about it. In the immediate term, it may not be totally as easy because we're not going to have all the year-to-year historical information, because we did move some of the cost centers, some of the expenses into different cost centers, and that information will be coming out. But for example, all the staff, whether they're in regular ed or special ed or custodians, are all going to be assigned to the cost center in each building. And I think it will, in the long term, make it much easier for us to follow budgets and things. So I'm very pleased with that. And I've, in general, been working with the district to try to have as much communication as we can. I've learned a lot about how it's been done in the past. I've been encouraging more communication. You can't respond to every error in the newspaper that I read, but I've reached out to some of the journalists if I felt they didn't understand some of the context. The issues that we've been dealing with this year are very complex.
No doubt.
And it's hard to do that reporting, but also for parents. I want to make sure parents and community members are getting the information they need to know about the schools. So I'm real pleased about that. I voted for, I did a lot of research and I voted for the later school start times at the high school. So if we go back to what I learned a lot about, sleep habits and learning abilities and how sleep and learning affect adolescents. And I feel confident that, it hasn't started yet, but I hope that we will see some of the improvements in our students' lives, the anxiety levels, the stress levels, the physical health, that we think we'll be able to see a little bit. I've learned a lot about some of the issues with, learning about the Youth Risk Behavior Survey, and I feel like we've addressed individual things, but hope to continue to work on those. So.
And then on that last point, some of the people, maybe aren't exactly aware, you just throw it out there. But I mean, so the idea was to make the high school start later in order to sort of like better match when kids are naturally falling asleep and waking up.
Yes.
Especially in the adolescent to teenage years, which might make them a little bit more alert, less susceptible to depression, things like that, is according to the research.
Yep.
So when that goes into effect, what kind of things, how do you plan on sort of monitoring and making it, keeping yourself abreast of how, it's working?
Yeah. I don't have a particular plan about monitoring it, although I do hope to work with the administration to, in particular at the high school, to, make sure we're tracking, are our tardies getting better? There's certain things that are easier to track.
Right.
Are the tardies better? Are the absences better? There are other things that are a little bit more anecdotal, but, how are the teachers feeling their first period classes are doing? Perhaps we want to do a survey, after a year for students. Is that helping? Do you feel more awake in class? Has it helped with your stress level? We could track injuries. Some of the research has shown that there's fewer injuries in sports for kids who are getting sleep at the right time. So there's a lot of ways we might track it, and I'm not sure yet how we're going to do that.
And then again, there'll be the risk behavior study that will come out. So, so looking ahead to the next 3 years, what are some of the things that you kind of hope to tackle and accomplish as a committee?
Well, I want to continue working on some of the things that I've did. I've mentioned the cultural competency is something that many teachers are looking at, or providing curriculum and providing resources, providing ways for students to be learning about their peers. We have a lot of teachers taking workshops and talking to each other about ways to make sure that all of our students feel that they belong. So I want to keep encouraging that. I want to continue to work, toward academic excellence for all. Like I said, I'm pleased with what I've seen with the RTI instruction at the elementary schools. I'm delighted we have a new principal at the middle school who seems to be ready to step in and take over from the people who've been there and done such a nice job in the past. I'd like to see us continuing that, RTI kind of tiered instruction, and see how we can bring that more perhaps into the middle school. I'd like to see, again, more transition from the middle school to the high school in terms of curriculum alignment. So that's something I'm looking toward. I'm looking to, let's see, I had a list here. Oh, and in addition to seeing how our new budget format works, as you know, we've had some problems with the student activities accounts and with our music revolving account. I'm very pleased with the new policies and procedures that we have in place now for our student activities accounts. Most people probably have been following that, but if you haven't, it's something that many school districts are going through because there were new regulations in 2015, and we have put in place and are training people to follow the new procedures. So I feel confident about that, and I feel good about it. As a former teacher, I did some of the same things that people have concerns about in terms of lack of documentation. I would take money for a field trip, stick it in the envelope, write down who gave me the money, pay the money for whatever the field trip was, and if there was a little money left over, I'd buy popcorn for the kids.
Right.
That was just the way school districts always worked. Now that I've been through this experience, I say, we really should be keeping track of cash that's coming in or money that's coming in, have receipts, have documentation. So I feel good about moving forward. I feel really good about that. For the music revolving account, do you want to talk about it separately, or?
Well, I just wanted to ask you, how did you feel that it was handled as far as the administration goes and the school committee goes? Do you think it was done in the right way as far as the way when information was given out and kind of the interaction with parents and concerned citizens?
In terms of the music revolving account, it's a different type of rules. We've already put in place new procedures and addressed the concerns that have come out. I am not happy with what was found, although I do want to keep in context that the music revolving account had $380,000 go through it in the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. The concern is over an amount of money that's around $8,000 to $14,000 that we have concerns about over the last 3 years. I am very concerned about the lack of documentation, the money that wasn't put through the system. But I feel like that, again, is being addressed. I'm not happy with that. I'm not happy that there wasn't oversight. I feel like moving forward, though, we are putting in place the kinds of oversight that need to be. That's what the audit was for, to find out where the problems were. For example, the BEST program was going through, that's the theater group that goes in the summer for younger students. That money all went through the music revolving account. Every penny was accounted for. So there were only certain areas where there were problems, but there were problems that were not good. I also want to say that I feel like so much good is happening, where we have volunteers who help make the musicals in the theater happen, programs happen. We have all these students who benefit from these programs. And so my understanding is the new budget that's coming out, and again, I haven't seen the details yet, but that they're going to have, the musicals will be part of the school budget. It won't have to pay for itself with its tickets. So yes, there'll still be a music revolving account. We'll have new procedures in place to make sure we're documenting and receipting all of the money coming in and going out. But the musical will still be happening with support from the schools. For example, our hockey teams are paid for through the school budget. They don't bring in receipts from the hockey rink to pay for the hockey program. Additional operating money needs to go into that.
Right, and I don't think anyone or many would argue against having, the productions are always high quality and well enjoyed by a lot of people.
So I'm looking forward to continuing with these programming, but to budget them differently and to track the money more appropriately. And I also want to take this moment to thank all the volunteers who make all those things happen, whether it's the music boosters or the sports boosters. All those things don't just happen in a vacuum. They happen because of the teachers that put in the time, the parents, and the kids that I feel like it's a great experience for.
Just a couple of quick things. I know we're actually running low, or not super low, but somewhat low on time. But any sort of capital projects that you are hearing about that you that you think the school committee should focus on in the next year or 2 or 3?
Well, we have a list of capital projects that we are going to send to town meeting in May, and we have more capital projects to accomplish than we have money allotted to us, so we'll have to be making decisions about that. And I don't know yet. I think the priorities will go to the safety issues, but and I'm not good at remembering the details, but I know there's a fire alarm that's very, very old in one of the buildings, so I'm thinking that will be one of our priorities. We may not be able to meet all of them, but I'm not going to say there's one thing that is my top priority other than making sure we have the safety issues covered.
And now, aside from the revolving account and all the budget stuff there, are there any other concerns that you're hearing from parents that you want to address in moving forward?
Not so much. We heard a lot of people with different opinions about the later start times, and I listened to all of the information I got from both research and from parents, and made the decision based on what I felt would be best for the students. I have parents who are concerned about these financial budgeting problems. There are individual concerns in individual buildings, but those, there's no one thing that I have a big concern about, and I'm looking forward to going forward. We have a couple of new positions that we're hiring for right now. Like we just hired the middle school principal. We are in the process of hiring a new Fox Hill principal and a new special ed director. And although I'm not on all three of those committees, the candidates that we're getting in our candidate pool are very talented. And I feel like that's a really good thing. It says a lot about the Burlington schools that people with really good experience and knowledge and skills are wanting to work in Burlington. So I have a lot of positive optimism going forward for that too.
Excellent. And the last thing, I guess, so you are the only one on the ballot.
Yeah.
So unless
Yeah.
there's something crazy happens,
Yep.
you'll most likely be in for another term. Just talk about your philosophy or your practice of communicating with parents and town meeting members and just and residents. How can they get in touch with you?
Okay,
What can they expect when they do so?
Right. Well, people can always get in touch with me directly. My phone number is in the book. I'm on the website. I have an email, which is msimon@bpsk12.org. I'm open to, I hope that people will get in touch with me if they have concerns. I would like, there was something else I was thinking. I guess what I'd like to ask is that people let me know if they have concerns and if they have things that they think are going really well that they want to encourage more of. That's another area.
Great. So as we wrap up, I don't know if you want to take 30 seconds just to talk directly to voters ahead of the election, and then we'll come back and we'll say our goodbyes. So there's your camera.
Yeah, I do hope that people will come out to vote on April 7th. I am unopposed, but there are other candidates that have a competition. I hope you'll vote for me. I would respectfully request that. And if there are concerns you have about the 3 years I've been on the school committee, please let me know. If you have issues that you'd like to see me looking at that you don't hear I'm talking about, please do that. Please let me know what you think we should be working on. I actually just remembered I also have another initiative that I'm hoping to bring in after the budget season is over, and that is regarding environmental policies for the school district. So I'll be talking about that more in public as we go forward.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah,
I
good.
appreciate it.
Yeah,
My guest
good,
today.
thank you.
My guest has been school committee member Martha Simon, and as she mentioned, the election will be held on Saturday, April 7th. Polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So come down here in the school gymnasium to vote. Thank you for joining us for the special coverage of the BCAT of Burlington Town Election 2018. I've been your host, BNEWS Director Rich Hosford, and thanks for watching.